So one of my favorite moments from our recent trip to Uganda was meeting a man named Moses. So I noticed him on the first day. He's sitting off to the side. He's in a wheelchair. And I don't see very many people interact with him. And I finally got his name on our second day there at the church in Mayugi. And I got his name, and I had heard a little bit about him. He doesn't talk. He's been like this forever. He's in a wheelchair. He's kind of off by himself. And I just get this feeling, and I really want to go talk to Moses. I'm anticipating him not being able to answer, just to kind of look at me. And I walk up to him and I place my hand on his shoulder. And I say, "Good morning, Moses. My name is Mark. I'm blessed by God to get to meet you." And his smile lights up bigger than I think I know how to smile. And he looks straight into my eyes and says, "Amen." And I know that might not sound like much, but God has placed something in my heart for people like that. Not only because I'm grateful that God made me whole, but also because they get to experience God in ways that I don't get to. So I'm a little bit jealous of that. But when this mute man looked up to me with his hand in mine and just said, "Amen," that was a huge miracle. He doesn't talk, he talks to no one. And God found me worthy of getting to be a witness to this miracle. And it's a moment that I will never forget. It's a moment that I'll get to tell my children about. And by the grace of God, I'll get to shake Moses' hand one more time.
One of my favorite things about going on mission is watching preconceived expectations just get blown out of the water. And that happened on this trip as well. We prepared for about 150 people at the Busawobi Christian Fellowship rally. We had never done a rally here since I've been on board. And so I really had no idea what to expect, but just from going on what other people have said in the past, we kind of expected maybe 100, 150 people. So we prepared for 150 people. We had rented 100 chairs. We bought or rented enough plates for 150 people. And our meal consisted of one 40-pound bag of rice. I think we had 4 chickens, a small side of beef. It was not very much for 150 people. And we were going through the services just fine. I was sitting up front, so I couldn't really see a lot of the tent and like what was going on behind me. But I started noticing it just felt like there were a lot of people. Like you can tell, just there was a lot of movement and a lot of, it just felt like it was getting crowded behind me. So I turned and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, where are all these people coming from? They just kept coming and they just kept coming. And it was almost time for lunch, and I noticed that Salma, which is our admin director on the Uganda side, and our pastor, Pastor Sula, were MIA. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go find them, see what's going on, because it's extremely unusual that they would both disappear at the same time. So I cut through the back and I went around front to where they were cooking the food, and they were both standing there in the kitchen. You'll see in the pictures what I mean by kitchen. And I walk up to them and I'm like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And they just had this deer in the headlight look. Like they looked panicked. And I said, "What's wrong?" And they said, "We've only prepared for 150 people. And there are more than 500 people here right now." And I was like, okay, well. So I said, well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna pray over this food. We're gonna ask God to bless the food, and then we're just gonna do what we can do. We got all the children lined up first, and I was like, just start serving. It's like, don't skimp. You know, we don't want people to be hungry, but don't give massive amounts. And so they just started serving children. But we're talking about 500 kids alone. And finally got all the kids fed, and they ran off to play, and we get the adults all lined up, and we bring in the 150 plates, and I'm like, same thing, reuse them. And we went through that stack of plates twice. And we never ran out of food. Like, the food just was, the bucket was always full of food. And it was just the most incredible thing. And I didn't really realize it until it was over. because you're like, when you're in the middle of something, you're just putting food on plates, getting plates back around. I mean, we were just running 100 miles per hour. And then when it was over and the last person was finished, I was like, did that even just happen? Like, it was so crazy. And then I went back over to the kitchen area and there was still food. Like, there was still food in the pots. There was still rice, there was still gravy, there was still chicken. We're talking, it's instead of 5 loaves, 2 fish, it was like 4 chickens and a bag of rice.
One of the coolest things was while we're there, and at the end they give the altar call, they give the call for salvation, and the DJ himself actually came and gave his heart to Jesus that day. There was another elderly gentleman there, and he was very kind, and was just, as you heard him speak at the breakout session that we had afterwards, we come to find out that he was actually Muslim. Found out later on that he converted and gave his life to Christ. And so to sit there and see, again, the multiple stories of just lives change, and seeing the kids' faces, to how they, again, were moping to then smiling, laughing, and just having a blast. And the people were just before kind of downtrodden, very down to last time, and to this time they were just full of joy and couldn't wait to get in. And we're just hearing amazing story after amazing story since then of just what all God did. I think that day that was the day we had around 31 salvations, and it just blew my mind because it was everywhere.